We are getting ready to introduce this man in the top right side. Of course, representing TeamLiquid themselves, it is Kelazhur.
And his opponent, spawning down on the bottom left for Onside Gaming. Give it up for the purple Protoss player. It is America's Neeb.
Who does Kelazhur belong to these days, man? It's impossible to say, right?
Yeah, he's kind of done the Huck thing, where he's been claimed by another place. I remember the Koreans used to refer to Huck as an honorary Korean, and that's happened a couple of times throughout history of StarCraft 2 and even Brood War a little bit, I think.
Wow. This is so unlucky, by the way. Neeb is checking for proxies, barely misses it. Kelazhur maybe has done his homework, took a look at his maps, took a look at the scouting pattern of the probe. And it's like, if I put it there, it's close enough that it's going to really hurt, but it's unlikely to get scouted immediately. I mean, I kind of want to claim Diego as Dutch at this point. Okay, he lives here. He's been here for many years. I think he's very happy in Tilburg at the moment. Nobody would ever live for fun in Tilburg unless you truly love the Netherlands. So I think he's kind of one of us.
Seems like a bit of a herring enthusiast based on his comments in the chat. So, you know, that kind of lines up with what you're saying. We are going to be seeing the SCV actually slipped past. I would have thought for sure that Neeb saw this, but it looks like he didn't. And if this bunker gets up, it's a real nuisance for the Protoss player.
Yeah, especially if you take a look at the pylon positioning so far, right? Both pylons are in the main base, and that is actually very annoying. Like, I think Kelazhur should always go second Reaper here. There are many moments where you only make one Reaper, but if there is no pylon on the low ground, I actually think second Reaper is very good, because that becomes really annoying to clean up. Like, one Reaper in a bunker you can absolutely deal with. So far, we haven't found too much success yet. One probe does fall, and I think that's going to be all that Kelazhur gets for now. Does not make a second Reaper. I'm kind of sad about it, to be honest, because no pylon on the low ground means that by the time you get a shield battery on the low ground, we are like minutes into this game. It would have been so sweet for Kelazhur. You don't want to lose that Reaper. It needs to be so careful. Stalkers on the high ground does not get the shots off. So now it's a double kill Reaper. And at least this is going to be annoying because Neeb won't be able to mine this mineral line for a little while.
Yeah, the fact that, like you already said it, the fact that it's a high ground setup. Oh, hello?
Hello?
Oh, get in the bunk.
What? What?
What?
What was that?
Well, Neeb
I
can
have
mine from his
never seen
natural
that.
now.
I like how Neeb just ignores him. He's like, I don't know, man. Happens all the time. Sucks to be you, bro.
Yeah, that was definitely a sucks to be you.
We don't mind, though.
Ooh.
Now I post another question mark.
Yeah.
All right, so, well, that was strange, guys. Maybe the Reaper can't sneak through there. Maybe it's a bug on one of the new maps. I've got no idea. But normally a Reaper should always be able to hop into the bunker from that spot. That was crazy.
Yeah, and first of all, I don't know why he didn't have it out. We are going to see, the mine unburrowing right as Neeb shows up. This is a bit of a problem here for Kelazhur. But with, never mind. He's got 3 mines. He's going to be fine. This will keep the drop at home for a little while, though.
Yeah, but Neeb can't really check all the time, right? You can also leave a single mine here. Kelazhur is just going to take the risk that Neeb is no longer going to check. So he has picked up all 3 mines. This is going to be a wild game, man, because the economies are just a bit random at this point. 1 Phoenix is nice and all, but what is 1 Phoenix going to do against 3 Widow Mines? Not a whole lot. Will Neeb see it? Neeb saw it there. Yep, he caught a glimpse, turns around. But you still have no firepower. You need to recall. But even after you recall, this is going to hurt. Now, you could maybe lift 2 out of 3 mines. Are we going to do that? Yes, we are going to lift 2 out of 3. I would kill the Stalker here, by the way. Yeah, oh my god, he gets the Stalker and the double kill. Now the units can go back to the mines. Go back to the mines. Because the mines have not fired yet. Okay, both of them settle for a Phoenix. That's decent. Could have been worse, obviously, for Neeb. But this is just a weird game right now, Steadfast.
Yeah, this is bizarre already. Now, oh wow, the pylon. What do you make of this pylon to the natural?
I have no idea.
It's gonna deny a lot of time, like he won't be able to kill it for a while because he has to focus on the stalkers. But is that actually worth it though?
I don't think it really is. I'm very confused by it, and we lose another Stalker. I'm actually surprised the final Stalker does manage to live. Yeah. it didn't really do a whole lot, so I'm not sure. I don't think Neeb is totally sure either. It's probably just one of these things where sometimes in a moment you're like, I should build a pylon here, so I can warp in a couple of units, I can keep you contained for a little while. But then because of the mine drop, you can't really execute that plan. You're like, yeah, never mind, I've got a pylon now. This is going to be a problematic game for Neeb, because until he has Colossus out, everything that he's going to build is going to really suck. That Phoenix is gonna die. Oh my goodness. That's bad.
Oh, that is absolutely brutal. Very lucky towards the end right there. That 5th probe gets into the gas. So after a series of like 5 unlucky things in a row for Neeb, he gets a little bit of luck back in his favor. So there's that, I guess. But man, always got to be careful with these Phoenixes. And the scan comes down. He's not going to get it though. Okay.
A little bit ambitious, but at least he dealt some extra damage right to one of the Phoenixes. I'm just very worried for Neeb. The first time that Kelazhur runs to the other side of the map, which could very well be now. This army has firepower with Stim. And what does Neeb have right now besides a couple of Phoenixes floating around? Honestly, not a whole lot. These Marines are a problem. If the Immortal shoots at Cyclones, then I guess it's okay. Guardian Shield can buy some time, but until the Colossus is out, I think Neeb is in trouble, but it does seem like he's going to get it out relatively quickly.
You know what? I like the decision from Kelazhur to back off right there because of the positioning. With seeing the Immortal out, seeing that there's a sentry, seeing that there's a few units there, you know, you don't want to push through and try and force the issue. I think Kelazhur of old, and I'm not talking about like a couple months ago, I'm talking about like a couple of years ago, might have tried to force the issue there, and I think it would have been a bit of a mistake. I actually like that he doesn't here. Neeb did get supply block there a little bit, but not for too long. He's got the 2nd Colossus on the way. I think this push is the scarier one, and more so because of where you can put that tank.
Yep. I think what's going to be very interesting here is to keep an eye on the Colossus. What does the Colossus shoot at? Every single time it's going to shoot at the Cyclones or a tank, not very useful. If it shoots at the Marines, that's going to be the money shot that Neeb is looking for. I mean, Neeb, despite the fact that it's been such a weird game and obviously a lot of things not quite going his way in the early game, sure, he got lucky with the Reaper bugging out a bit, but it felt weird. But he has done a great job in building workers, and Kelazhur is putting himself more and more in a spot where we need to start finding some real damage. Otherwise, Neeb is going to run away with this, right? A 14 worker advantage, a full base advantage. The next minute is going to be crucial for Kelazhur. And even though I didn't mind that he disengaged with the Marines and the Cyclones, what I think he could have done is run away from that army and stim towards the 3rd base. I actually think that would have been a perfectly fine call, because Neeb's army was very slow, and there is nothing worse than a slow army trying to catch up with stim Marines.
Yeah, that is very true. Ooh, nice pullback right there from Neeb. Keeps the Phoenixes alive, and with a very small number of units, he manages to shove back a 16 Marine drop. The Colossus just free-firing that whole time. Zealots keeping the Marines at bay, and just pretty nicely handled. I mean, Colossus obviously do very well against Marines, but all it takes is them jumping on it, and things can fall apart very quickly. Kelazhur, he's still on a very high Marine count right now. He was trying to trade out right there, but as the Colossus count continues to rise, like, I'm starting to get very worried for Kelazhur.
Yeah, it feels that Diego had some opportunities to deal damage because he technically had a more powerful army, but wasn't quite able to find what he was looking for, didn't like the potential fights that he saw, decided to disengage. But yeah, eventually that economic lead that Neeb had is really going to start adding up. So this drop, we can definitely call this a Doom drop, as it's 5 medevacs full of bio. We're just going to drop on top of a battery. Overcharge would be really sick here. I would overcharge there immediately in a heartbeat. Neeb decided not to do that. I think that's a little bit of a mistake. Maybe he had no energy. He will still be able to clean this up, but the one with a mine at the probes. Oh my goodness. Okay, it would have been bigger, but it's still big.
I thought for sure that was going to be gigantic. Somehow the probes were stacked on the other side of the gas and they didn't get hit. That was like 1 pixel from being 25 probes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. One more Colossus in the middle of nowhere is going to have a hard time fighting 2 Marauders in a Cyclone, so that goes down too. Well, we said Kelazhur needed damage. Kelazhur found damage. He picked off a couple of Colossus, and he has killed 18 probes, and there are still plenty of Widow Mines in the main base that are not being detected. So they will get a few more shots off. Another one goes down, and Neeb, well, he went from being in a pretty sweet spot to suddenly being in a disastrous one, because his army, it just kind of blows at this point. He doesn't have a lot of detection, and there is nothing happening on the other side of the map. Oh, that's so risky, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of falling apart for Neeb right here. Kelazhur getting the job done. Can Neeb hold at this base? He should be able to here. He's got the batteries. He's got the Colossus. He still can claw his way back into this game, but it's going to be... This is not the kind of game you win in the next couple minutes unless Kelazhur makes a big mistake.
No.
This is the kind of game you need to really draw out now as Neeb.
Yep. Neeb already has so little map vision. Ends up losing another observer. Good eyes there by Kelazhur. Throws on the scan. I mean, the 2-2 upgrades are on the way. The enhanced shockwaves are on the way. Another Phoenix flies into a mine in the center of the map. I think you nailed it there. Neeb cannot really win this game ever in the near future. But what he can do is just defend. Maybe get a second robo up, right? Maybe we can sneak in a couple of disruptors down the line and just take it from there. But moving out seems to be out of the question at this point.
Yeah, now you spoke about limited detection. He is going to be very happy that his limited detection finds the entire army of Kelazhur. That is really, really fortunate. He does have an army that is really good against specifically what Kelazhur has, the way the army is laid out. So Kelazhur quickly stims to get out of there. He doesn't want his Marines caught in the front. And a wise little move right there from Kelazhur. Obviously, he has an army that is capable of fighting, but he doesn't want to do it in that positioning setup. Little Zealot run by. Looks like it did get dealt with pretty well by Kelazhur, so not going to take too much damage. Yeah, what would you like to see Neeb do besides just trying to defend for a while?
I think that's the only thing I'd like to see him do. Stabilize on 4 bases, if you can. And of course, if we were richer, we could warp in a lot of DTs. We could warp in a lot of Zealots, but we simply don't have that kind of money. 59 probes is not a whole lot. And we can try to get lucky with a few Dark Templars. Seems like Kelazhur has once more loaded up a couple of medevacs. How many medevacs are we talking? That is a lot of medevacs again, even though 2 of them are very low on HP. The Phoenix does see it, but it's a little bit too late. The Colossus are going to be able to get a couple of shots off from far away. But at the same time, Kelazhur's main army is going to pounce on this 4th base. A little bit of a move command there in the main base, though. The Zealots getting a pretty decent trade, despite the fact that they are down so far in upgrades. It just seems like it's a numbers game. I mean, Neeb does a great job, though, in keeping the Nexus alive, still keeping 2 out of 3 Colossus alive. Kelazhur turns around, wants to get one more, gets one more. The final one should be safe, because no unit has ever died while being healed by battery overcharge.
Exactly. Wait, I thought you were a Protoss player. That sounded like Terran rhetoric to me.
I mean, just because Skillers is making fake clips doesn't mean that I can do it, you know.
Oh, true. True, of course, of course. I would say that went very well for Neeb in the aggregate. Considering the amount of... The potential of him just straight up dying right there was so high. To come out of this situation, even on workers, or relatively even, and only down a little bit of army supply, I'm liking Neeb's position a lot more than I did about a minute ago.
Yep. I still think he's losing, but it's definitely a lot more playable, because it looked like he was pretty much down and out, but he found a lot of economic damage. Good job there. Picks up one of these DTs. The Vikings, though, are going to try to end this little war prison party, and the DT desperately tried to make it to the low ground. That's not going to happen. But Neeb created a lot of chaos there, and I'm sure that Kelazhur thought, all right, Neeb, let's just go ahead and end it, mate. I've got so much more. My units are way more well upgraded. It seems like this Nexus was off location. But crazy good hold by Neeb in the end. Did have a bit of a move command, right, in the main base of Kelazhur or Neeb?
Yes.
Because I think the Zealots, otherwise they would have disappeared a whole lot quicker. And I think it would have been a lot harder for Neeb to trade as well as he did in the end.
Oh, Optimistic Ghost is not going to get what it's looking for. We will see a Disruptor Shot comes out and gets a pretty massive connection. That is exactly what Neeb was looking for right there. Widow Mines, though, got to be careful about them. And these Vikings... Okay, I was going to say, does he pop Battery Overcharge just to top the Colossus up? And the answer is going to be yes. And if there's no fight for, another 45 seconds or so, it's fine. But there is a little bit of a period of vulnerability right now for Neeb. I mean, even more so than we've seen.
Yeah, but it does. I think also maybe a little EMP landed right, so you heal up a couple of the other units that had no shields. In case Kelazhur would come again immediately, at least you start the fight full on shields.
Yeah.
It's very, very impressive that Neeb has made something of this game, and that he's now looking like perhaps the player that's in the driver's seat, as he's got +2 as well. +2 armor is on the way. He doesn't have a second Robo, but he's doing a good job in at least keeping these Disruptors alive. And it's going to be awkward for Kelazhur when the majority of our army almost feels like it's Vikings and Medevacs, but we're going to have to deal with a bunch of Disruptors.
Yeah, they're notoriously Vikings and Medevacs don't deal with that very well. Neeb does chase Kelazhur around a corner a little optimistically, but it's still going to work out pretty well. He picks off a couple of Vikings with a blink forward. And yeah, Kelazhur doesn't have enough to actually fight this army. Pretty massive Widowmine shot there, but the Disruptor shot on the other side is equally as devastating. And yeah, I don't know. We do have 3-3 almost done for Kelazhur. That's going to be very handy here. And nicely placed turrets are helping him out a lot with these DTs as well. I still think I like Kelazhur's position, but once again, you're absolutely spot on. The fact that Neeb has made something of this game is very impressive.
Yep, and now Neeb will be full of belief, right? Because he knows that he survived the scariest part, where he didn't have too many units, where it was going to be super hard for him to split up his army properly, where it felt that he was so far down in upgrades that it was going to be borderline impossible to get a good fight. None of that is really relevant anymore. Neeb does need to be careful. This feels kind of crazy, but Kelazhur is just going to ignore it and is going to initiate some sort of a base trade. Base trading against Disruptors and DTs and recall and battery overcharge. It feels kind of a crazy call to me, but let's see if this works out for Kelazhur.
And we are going to see Neeb going for that recall here. He does still have a fair number of units in the natural of his opponent, but the main focus is on this fight. We are seeing a big flank coming in from Neeb. Oh, if this army cannot break through at the front of Neeb's natural, the Disruptors are going to be so scary. Oh, he did get a little bit too close, but the shot connects. That being said, Neeb did lose a lot on the way over.
Neeb loses almost everything. I mean, this actually went really good for Kelazhur in the end, because Neeb has lost all of his Robo units. The Robos are unpowered. Maybe one of the two Robos did get picked up as well. I'm not quite sure if that happened in the natural or not. That was just, the recall wasn't quite it for Neeb, and the SimCity really worked against him, right? Zealots is storming through the gaps one by one, just getting absolutely obliterated by Marines and Marauders. Couple of Stalkers, they stand no chance. And the main army of Neeb, it just showed up like 10 or 15 seconds too late, and on top of that, it ran through like 3 or 4 Widow Mines. So it was actually pretty beat up. A couple of Stalkers went down. This game is wild, man. This is also one of the most scrappy and fun games of the day. They have a lot of bases, they don't have a lot of workers, and the armies are quite small. Kelazhur will feel that this is his moment. Didn't get the pylon immediately, but he does get it in the end. And it does seem like Neeb is going to have to give up on this base, because a couple of Stalkers, that is just not going to be enough.
No, it certainly isn't. He needs a Disruptor shot from God, and I don't know if he's going to be able to get it here. Oh, Kelazhur a little bit late on the lift up right there. Loses a fair bit of supply, but he needs another one of those, I think, in order to still have a chance here.
Well,
being down
or we just spend the money. Or we just spend the money. Yeah, as the observer is showing us, I was about to bring it up. Kelazhur does not know about this base at 9 o'clock. So he's now taking a fight that he doesn't quite have to take in range of multiple batteries. A bunch of Zealots have been warped in because Neeb was flooding minerals. As the observer just showed us, Kelazhur is not aware of the fact that Neeb has the base at 9 o'clock. That would have been the easiest pickoff ever. Neeb would have been terribly out of position to defend that, and it would have been a very important base to snipe. Instead, Kelazhur kind of threw away a lot of units while being down a lot of workers in range of a bunch of batteries. This game is nuts. I mean, there's Widow Mines everywhere. Kelazhur still has not seen that. He might just... Does he even know about the bottom right side, by the way? Can we show Kelazhur's vision one more time? Because I don't even know if he knows about bottom... No, oh my goodness.
No.
He has no idea. He probably thinks that Neeb is ultra broke, but Neeb is not broke.
No, not at all. And he's continuing to rally in just basic units and even stimming them across the map a little bit in certain scenarios. And at a certain point, alarm bells have to go off that your opponent has too much money. Neeb is going to go for the attack right here. I don't know about attacking up a ramp, but he's still going to be able to take a good enough trade right there. Neeb,
if he can just push him back a little bit and don't lose the Robo units, every second that goes by right now is pretty sweet for Neeb, though. Gives him time to get way more big, powerful units out, and he's got these 2 super fresh bases running at 9 and in the bottom right side. And Kelazhur has no idea. Kelazhur probably thinks, it's going really good. It's like, okay, actually, maybe he had a bit of a Protoss bang, question mark. And then, indeed, then the alarm bells go off. He's like, wait a minute, this is Neeb. Neeb doesn't do this whole Protoss bang thing. He probably has one of those 2 bases. And Kelazhur's heart is going to absolutely drop when he realizes Neeb has both.
Yeah, it is I mean, he is losing control of this game at this point. If he hasn't already lost it, he does still have 3-3 versus 2-2, and that's a big advantage. That's really, really nice. But the Disruptors don't care about that. If they land the correct shots, it's almost not even going to matter what those upgrades are.
Okay, that's a very questionable forward blink, but if the Novas are good, we can get away with that. And they were good enough. They were from a safe spot, and they zoned the bio units away. Neeb's playing pretty crazy here. He's playing it like he's already got it in the bag, but this is still a very close and competitive game. There is a drop right now on the bottom right side, as the observer is showing us too. Seems like Neeb already wiped in a couple of units to deal with those 8 Marines. This Nova only gets a single Marauder. Felt like it had a lot of potential there.
Even just the stims that Neeb is forcing out are really, really good for him at this point. There's only 4 medevacs on the field. That is a really big problem. Kelazhur does realize that, starts adding on a couple more medevacs. But his economy is not great at this point, and his gas bank is non-existent. Kelazhur is really... Oh, I'm starting to get worried for him a lot. Uh-oh. This could be very scary. He doesn't see the army. The Disruptors! Oh, the shots are gigantic, and Neeb is going to be able to get a very good engagement here. I don't know about chasing too far, but the Disruptors are still going to cover his advance.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. Just be happy with the great shots you got. Go back. We're going back into Colossus, which I think is a very smart choice because Kelazhur is down to 0 Vikings. And you mentioned it as well. Kelazhur does not have a crazy gas bank, and he doesn't have too many refineries up and running. We can see that in the overlay that we are using. He's only mining 600 gas a minute. Meanwhile, Neeb is doubling that. So yeah, why not go back into Colossus? Good luck building Vikings if you have no gas.
Yeah, and it's so weird to think that a Terran player on 5 bases like this is such a pinched situation. But I mean, that's the thing, is he's been continuously kind of feeding units in piecemeal. We're going to see him finally trying to make a play on this base, but Neeb has the Colossus at this point. He's going to recall, I think, Disruptors over here as well. Oh, that was not the blink, I don't think, from Neeb.
Now, a couple of these blinks have been a little too ambitious for my taste, but I do think that Neeb is going to get away with it. The fact that we are here is crazy, because Neeb was really proper dead in this game, and there was almost nothing that he could have done. And I felt that if Kelazhur would have kept it simple, he would have been able to just run away with it, but he decided to go with some multi-prong in the end, and that's where sometimes battery overcharge can shine the most, and I guess we saw that once or twice in this game. At this point, I don't know what Kelazhur can do. Like, if we get a snipe on one of these next side, of course there is always hope, right? Because then Neeb's economy is becoming a bit weaker again. Maybe we can land some great EMPs. We can surround this army. Kelazhur is going to try the base trade thing one more time. He's like, that went pretty good for me last time around, so let's just do that all over. And I don't hate this, right? Because Neeb is attacking a very irrelevant base that has been mined out. Meanwhile, Kelazhur is getting on top of a very important base with a decent amount of workers as well. 14 workers have gone down, but can we get these medevacs out? That's the most important thing right now for Kelazhur. We cannot lose this entire army. Lands an EMP, gets on top of a couple of the Disruptors too. I mean, not bad, but obviously we're not going to win the fight here.
Yeah, that was a really good sequence for Kelazhur, but now he is going to pay the toll of going through this location. He's going to lose just about everything. Maybe one medevac survives. Nope, absolutely not. Oh, it's even looks like an F2 right there to bring it back home. And the only place they're going is to the resources lost tab.
Would Kelazhur have been able to pick up those units and just put them in the bottom right? I feel like there is enough airspace in the bottom right, huh?
At the very least, I think he should have tried to retreat out either into that bottom right location or boosted up to the top right. Yeah, just get out of there with whatever you can. But he stayed a little bit too long. I don't think he anticipated Neeb was coming back home. Another nice disruptor shot, and at this point, I think we are past the point of no return. Upgrades be damned. Bad early game be damned. Neeb is here, and he is here to stay. And I timed it perfectly. GG gets called. Neeb will take game number 1 from a very rough position.
That was honestly a very wild 25-minute game with a lot of twists and turns, and Neeb won it. Well, at one point, if you take a screenshot of that game and show to pro gamers, so how's this going? They'll be like, that's over. 100% over. I really felt like it should have been over. The first big drop in the main base, I think, for Kelazhur was awesome, even though the execution wasn't all there. It's just when he tried to pounce on the 4th base and the fight in the main base, that's kind of where Neeb actually got a surprisingly good trade, despite the fact that he was down 2, if not 3 upgrades. It's just battery overcharge is so damn good in those scenarios. And yeah, even afterwards, obviously at one point it still looked like it was Kelazhur's game. But when Kelazhur was pushing into the base at 6 o'clock with all the batteries and the immediate reinforcements, he left all the mines behind at the original fourth base, the triangle one. If he would have gone towards the left and get on top of that base at 9 o'clock, Neeb's economy would have been in shambles. If he would have found the bottom right a bit earlier, Neeb's economy would have been in shambles. That game was robbery. And I think Neeb knows that he just got away with robbery in broad daylight. But amazing performance by Alex to turn that around, because that was not supposed to be possible.
Yeah, and even the main base, that one Doom drop, the move command was really, because there was 2 Doom drops, right? Or well, there was like 3 or 4.
Yeah. No, there was
there was
no 2 ways. The first one was really good, and the second one is when he move commanded and he tried to attack in the fourth base at the same time.
Yeah. But then I think the big thing after that, which you pointed out, which was really, really massive, was the fact that he not only didn't know about the 9 o'clock base, but he didn't know about the bottom right base as well. That's too much. 2 bases that your opponent gets away with when you can probably kill both of them for free. Like, Neeb didn't even invest static defense because he was just like, well, if they get found, I'm dead.
Yeah, no, there was nothing there. And then we fight at the only base where there is static defenses and there are perfect reinforcements immediately participating in the fight and a battery overcharge if necessary. Yeah, shame. I mean, that game just had a lot of key moments, because there was also that moment where they kind of base traded, and I was like, I'm not sure how this is going to go for Kelazhur, but it actually went really good because Neeb recalled an army that was too small. What he had left behind wasn't good enough. What he recalled wasn't good enough. And then when the main army showed up, he ran through like a field of widow mines, and he ended up losing a couple of disruptors too, lost a robo. It was a wild game with a lot to talk about.
Apparently, by the way, the reason that Kelazhur wrote the question mark is that he clicked on the bunker and the Reaper could not get in.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think that's obvious, right?
Well, I mean, I was wondering if it was something like when the Zealot was there, like it weirdly occupied the space. But I think he meant before that, like it just couldn't get in at all. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm. But, you mean like even when it would have gone from an other way? No, but it was in the bunker though. It definitely was in the bunker at one point.
Oh no, it was in the bunker for sure. But I just mean with no units blocking it at all. There was a little period where the Zealot was like on top of it. And I was wondering if that somehow occupied the space, but I think he was talking about before that as well. But either way, a weird situation there. But we're gonna talk about game number 2 here, as we have spawning down on the bottom left for Onside Gaming. It is Neeb.
I mean, that definitely was very weird. I have not seen that before, so then I honestly just don't know what to say. What we do know is that this man got very unlucky about it, but it didn't stop him from actually getting in an absolutely fantastic position in that game at one point. This is TeamLiquid's Kelazhur.
And we got a little bit of an interesting startup here. It looks like we're going to be seeing an engineering bay block up against a gas first. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with this scenario. Usually you don't check your natural with a gas first, right?
I have no idea. That gas was like the quickest gas I've ever seen, man. Even if I go 1 base Tempest, I don't get a gas that quickly. So I'm not totally sure what to make of this. But so far, Neeb is indeed not checking yet, and that means that this eBay is going to have a lot of HP on it, and it's going to be very annoying for Neeb to deal with.
Yeah, it looks like he's just going to take the Nexus at the third base, but this leaves you exposed to so many things. A 3 racks push, a Hellion run by. There's just so many things that make life complicated for the Protoss. And that's the big advantage, I would say, of the engineering bay block, even more so than just delaying the Nexus. If you can force the Nexus at the third base, feel free to disagree with me if you disagree, but I feel like this is just such an awful feeling for the Protoss.
Mm-hmm. What I'm actually a bit surprised by is that Kelazhur snap canceled the eBay, because I have seen in the past, and I think it was a Showtime game once, where somebody like eBay blocked and he took the Nexus elsewhere, then he canceled the eBay and he just canceled the Nexus and still took his natural. He's like, well, but Kelazhur just snap canceled it immediately, maybe felt that Neeb was never going to do that. It is indeed uncomfortable, but sometimes it can also work into your advantage, because a very logical follow-up is Hellions, but it's easy to deal with Hellions if you know it's Hellions. Now, the 3 racks, I totally agree with, though. Like, it's, I mean, I always feel exposed against the 3 racks, man. I can open up 1 base Forge and camp on my high ground, and I'm still worried about the 3 racks.
I've watched your stream enough to know that you're not a 3-racks enthusiast. I'll say that for sure.
I am if I'm cheering for the Terran, man. I've seen that strategy never lose, but
one player that I love watching 3-racks is Cure, because he's so good about knowing exactly when to commit and when not to, and that is what makes the Terran player the scariest for me. From the Protoss perspective, is like when the Terran really knows exactly the game state and what they can do or can't do with the 3-racks. That makes it very scary. Will just be 2 Hellions and into Widowmines to follow it up. No surprise there. Oracle is going to be quite handy to deal with this. So like you mentioned, it's good. Neeb is well prepared for this. There is a shield battery. Yeah, here. Okay, so it's. I don't think this is going to get too much done.
Nope, it shouldn't get much done in the main base either. Do you think Kelazhur is going to drop an armory?
I think that would be a pretty neat approach here. Oh, the probes. Oh, he is going to get... Wow, he gets 4 probes there. I feel like Neeb... So this is funny because the way the minerals are actually laid out on that 3rd base, there's like 4 mineral patches that are all in a perfect line for those Hellions. Huh. That was the worst way that could have been arranged.
I think that Neeb just kind of didn't look at it, and he's busy microing his adept. He's like, I've got a battery. If we have a battery as Protoss players, we know when we have to look and when we don't have to look. And 2 Hellions doesn't normally mean you have to look. But yeah, all the probes were lined up, so they were actually some real damage over time. We don't have an armory, so it's just a couple of Widowmines, but even regular Widowmines can really hurt. It's so hard to unload on top of 2 Oracles and a Phoenix. And I really wonder what Kelazhur is going to do here. He's kind of forced to drop them. But I think Pulse of Beam should be good enough. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, that's so sweet the way that Neeb did that. Lifting one, killing the other one. Because you know you don't have enough DPS to actually kill both. Really well done. Ah, sick.
I do want to point something really nice out there from Kelazhur, which is that he re-lifted the Widowmine knowing it would absolutely never fire. So he forces the Oracles to stay on for a little bit longer there.
Yeah.
So... it's still a really, really good defense. And Neeb, obviously, he was the star of that one. But Kelazhur gets the max that he could have out of that. How did that Widowmine just not fire? That's not a Maru Widowmine at all.
No, I mean, that was indeed a nice touch by Kelazhur, but in the end, he's still going to be very sad because, okay, this makes you a little happier. Neeb does get the scout off. He treated that like it was a hallucinated Phoenix. You know? Just sends it in, supposed to die, doesn't matter. Knows that it's triple CC. Sometimes the Terrans, though, they can still move out, even if they're going up to triple CC. Way before Stim, way before Combat Shield, they just rely on the Vikings and the Cyclones. Well, -1 Cyclone for at least a little while. But yeah, Kelazhur is still sad, obviously. Medevac, 2 Widowmines, 0 kills. No matter how you got there, that's never an outcome that you're happy with as a Terran.
Yeah, especially since he didn't even force a probe pull. Like, it's even worse than... yeah, it's about the worst case scenario. Oh, he does get an Oracle here. Okay, that's pretty nice. That's a really very good case scenario. And now we're seeing the main army pushing forward. These Widowmines are in a bit of a nasty spot to deal with. Gonna need to rev. Oh my God, they actually go off. Neeb wasn't expecting this. Neeb's in a lot of trouble right now.
Yep, so he's going to run towards the battery and pops the battery overcharge, but somehow the Oracle dies in range of battery overcharge because the overcharge was healing up some other units because they took splash damage, I guess, from those Widowmines. That pylon snipe was honestly quite big, right? Because there was a gateway there was a robotics facility there. In the end, this army of Kelazhur is not normally the kind of army that can ever end the game. But I think even Diego is surprised by how well all of that went. And that's mostly because Neeb just completely lost track of the army, right? He saw it, he lost it, and then it showed up in his natural, got on top of a very important pylon.
And then he didn't see the Widowmines burrow, I guess, and he ends up both of them fire. Like, I thought that was going to be a slow cleanup from Neeb, where he's like, okay, he has to revelate, he has to lift the things, but it's going to leave his Phoenixes exposed. Instead, they both fired, took out a couple of gateway units, and while Neeb still survives and he's still up in workers, he's still in an okay spot. That was more damage than I think it should have gotten done.
Yeah. It's a very funny best of 3 so far between these two. Of course, a big one. If you guys just joined us, it is the last best of 3 of the day. But the winner of this series will guarantee themselves a visit to the Alienware TeamLiquid training facility in Utrecht. The loser still has a chance, but obviously needs to win a couple of series in the offline or the lower bracket of this tournament. Neeb won a very hectic, scrappy game 1. I was kind of worried that Kelazhur was maybe kind of going to lose his calm and composure. You know, a game like that where you feel like you have him, and then you feel like you have him again, and then you feel like you have him again, and then it still doesn't quite go your way. I think those games are very difficult to bounce back from mentally, but I think Diego's playing a pretty good game too here, and there is still some hope, but I'm definitely favoring Neeb's position.
Yeah, I've got to agree with that. Whereas on the other hand, there are some games where it feels like you're behind forever, and you make a game of it, you still lose, but you go into it with well, that was a lost game, and I made him really work for it. That's a very, very different story from what we saw in game number 1. We're going to see a Widowmine drop trying to come in on the bottom side. What do you make of this with Phoenix on the map? It's not a ton of Phoenix, but even if there wasn't, if there wasn't pylons here, do you like this kind of move in the mid game?
Yeah, I think to create a bit of chaos, and especially once the Colossus count goes up, like it's unlikely that your Widow Mines are going to be sick, right? What can they really do unless Neeb just move commands into them? That will almost never happen. So trying to get some value out of the mines with a drop and just create some chaos and maybe get a good scout off so you can see where the army is. I never hate it, even if it's not likely to succeed. I still think you have to look for potential openings, because keeping them with your main army right now, like you look at this army of Neeb, what are Widowmines going to do? They just don't really help here.
Not so much. It's the Zealots would have to really get separated off from the pack, and even then, you've still got to be careful about the potential of a friendly fire Widowmine getting dragged into your army. And for the Phoenixes doing the same thing.
Oh! Well, 9 workers, 11 workers is good. It's going to make Neeb a little bit pissed off. So now he's just going to chase his army down. But Neeb should not overestimate his army. It's not a bad army, but without a War Prism here, without some high HP powerful units like Immortals, you can't really stick around there forever. So Neeb is forced to turn around, and well, that Widowmine drop in the end. He had to look hard for it. It took a little while. Yeah, if I was Neeb, I would go home, man. Like, this is not his entire army. And this army is very squishy, actually. Do we have some force field? Doesn't seem like it is. Stalkers, they cannot really hold the line. So we need some Zealots to show up, and the Zealots do show up. And they will make sure that Kelazhur is forced to turn around. But I think Neeb played with fire there, but got away with it.
Yeah, that was really close to being an extremely costly overstay. I think if he just stays on the bridge itself and is like halfway past on the bridge, I think it's okay. I think it's not great, but I think it's okay as long as you don't get flanked and get completely trapped on the bridge. But the fact that he was kind of like out projecting his army into a gigantic concave left him a little bit exposed. Also, something very funky about this game, we're going to see +2 weapons complete way before +2 armor for the Terran. That is not something we see every day these days.
No. That's very weird. I'm not sure if we just completely forgot about +1 or if it somehow just didn't work out because we needed resources elsewhere. It is indeed very weird, but at least we got 2 E-base now, so we can start working on it. Neeb's Prism has snuck into the main base. There are a couple of ghosts waiting though. Ghosts are very good, especially in choke points. 1 Colossus kind of left behind. Observer gets picked off as well. Would have been real bad to lose both Observers, because then you suddenly lose 3 Robo units. It takes a little while to rebuild that. War Prism.
War Prism flies by. You know what I would love to see, actually, upon seeing that? Put like 3 turrets right at the very top, just to make sure nothing can fly by. Like right along. He's got, I think he has 3 turrets on the base. Like 3 right in a line, so that no missile or no War Prism can sneak past. I think that'd be a nice move from Kelazhur.
All right, goody.
Well, you watched Maru vs. Showtime. It's Maru now.
It has been Maru all along. Pylon goes down. This Nexus is in a bit of a pickle, and the Nexus does get picked off. We land an EMP. Pretty good EMP. Neeb has a lot of army supply, but I don't really see it. This does not look like 107 army supply to me. Neeb's still confident he can win this fight. He's got a pretty bad army to chase, man. With only 1 Colossus and very few Stalkers. Neeb is taking some pretty terrible trades here.
Yeah, he's got to be so careful with this. Oh, does get a nice little disruptor shot, getting a couple of units towards the end. Yeah, you never want to go on the chase with disruptors, as disruptors is your main source of DPS. Like that feels like you're begging for a disaster. Meanwhile, we do have a big Liberator transition coming in from Kelazhur. Disruptor is going to try and connect once again. Oh, Neeb, no! That's not what you do with disruptors.
Oh my goodness. Neeb fires 2 balls, turns them around and blows up a solid 10+ supply of his own army. Things just going from bad to worse in the last minute and a half. Almost feels like Neeb is malfunctioning here a little bit, because this game was going really well for, a decent portion. But the last minute and a half, it's just been kind of awkward. A couple of bad fights, bad engagements, and well, to make matters even worse, we started blowing up our own units.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of is to improve morale for the rest of the army, to be like, look, we got rid of the bad guys. Now it's just good ones. The concave of Kelazhur is quite big. Does eat a bit of a disruptor shot, but as long as he just avoids these... In fact, I think you just take out the 9 o'clock base. I don't think you need to, like, sit in this position. I think just holding him here is fine. And just go for the base snipe during all this.
I like how Neeb went from Neeb to Diamond, back to Neeb again, because this was all really good. The way that Neeb defensively positioned all of his units there, the way that he timed the Novas, the way that he zoned them, and still counterattacking at the same time with a couple of DTs on the other side of the map, that actually looked excellent. And, well, that little momentum and the little lead that Kelazhur had there, I kind of feel like it just faded real quick, because that was excellent defense by Neeb.
Yeah, I will say, though, he doesn't have much that deals with disruptors very effectively. Even without their +2 weapons, they're still going to be very scary right here. Big EMPs coming on in. Disruptor shots will get avoided. And, I mean, Kelazhur, I think this is just a free base pickoff. I don't think Neeb can stop this.
No, Liberator count maybe a bit too high. And like you said, we don't have +2 ship weapons yet. We don't have the advanced ballistics yet. But losing one base here is not the end of the world, especially because Neeb already has that bottom right going up too. And I think if he just prevents these Liberators from getting on top of his natural and then denying all 3 bases there, he's going to be fine. He picks off 2 of them relatively easily there. We did finally have the enhanced shockwaves finish up too for the Gulls, just like give or take 20 seconds ago. But I felt like it was a little bit late. Maybe we could have had that earlier. The DTs do not find any success on the other side of the map, as we see in the picture-in-picture. So they are being brought back home. Neeb has a lot of money, or at least a decent amount of money. Feels like he's not totally sure what he wants to spend it on.
It looks like it's going to be Stalkers, and it'll be kind of fortuitous because a couple Liberators show up, and he needed those to deal with them. Ooh, nice dodge on the Widow Mines. Does get on out of here. And all of a sudden, what was like a 60 supply lead is actually down to a 30 supply lead. Oh, but they pile on, and the forges, no, that's +3/+3. Kelazhur just target the second forge. Get it. Kill it. Kill it.
Yeah, well, I mean, or just kill the disruptors, right? That's pretty good too. One Nova does finally go off. The second Nova goes off, but it's a little bit too late. And Neeb just decides to tap out there, even though he still had some money in the bank. But he realized he wasn't going to get those robots back. He wasn't going to get those forges back. This is a very strange best of 3, because they both have moments where they are looking as good as they've ever done, and they have a couple of derpy moments, but then they look fantastic again. I'm not totally sure what I'm watching, but I know it's fun to watch.
Yeah, if it was perfect StarCraft 2 all the time, I don't think anyone would watch it. It would be so uninteresting. You just have no one attacking for like 20 minutes, and then one player would be like, yes, I found a small opening. But with these kind of games, so, I mean, obviously there's exceptions. Like when it gets really, really derpy, then you're like, okay. But when it's, pure chaos and it is forced errors and it's the tension of a tournament that's causing those mistakes, then things get a lot more interesting because you're like, okay, who keeps it together in game 3? Who's the one who can make the least mistakes and come out on top?
Yeah, I mean, where do we even start if we try to summon up that game? Like, it looked pretty rough for Kelazhur, but Neeb obviously lost track of the random Marine Cyclone Viking army and the Widow Mines. They suddenly showed up in his natural, got a bit uncomfortable, but later on it felt like things were looking all right again for Neeb. And then it just felt all hell broke loose. Neeb decided to be very aggressive with a mediocre army, didn't get too much done. Kelazhur found good economic damage with the Widow Mine hits, and did a good job in transitioning into the Ghost, into the Liberators, and it just kind of felt like throughout the game, he outpositioned Neeb, right? It's not that he was playing so much better, that he out-microed him or out-macroed him, or that he was everywhere and Neeb was nowhere. Just kind of felt that he always had the better position for some of the key fights, and that he knew where the army of Neeb was, but that Neeb was not able to necessarily keep track of the Terran army. And normally, I feel like the tables are turned in PvT, where Protoss knows where the Terran army is, but then often the Terran army is a bit stronger. But obviously, as a Protoss, if you have more information, you can put the units in the correct spot. And this time, it felt like it was the other way around, where Kelazhur always knew where Neeb was, but it felt that Neeb was having a very hard time keeping track of where Kelazhur was.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, Vision, and especially on a map like Cosmic Sapphire, where there's so many places that you can make plays, so many different attack paths, and so many places where if you get set up, things get really scary for your opponent. It felt like, yeah, just like you said, Kelazhur was able to win that war in game number 2 much more effectively than in game number 1. Because in game number 1, yeah, the lack of scouting on those outside bases really, really hurt him. But we'll see what happens here. As we have spawning down on the bottom left of Data C, the purple Protoss player for Onside Gaming. It's Neeb.
And for the last time today, we are taking a look at the main base of our yellow Terran representing TeamLiquid, playing these games from Tilburg, the Netherlands. This is Kelazhur.
And I gotta say, he does look like he looks a little bit like a new player. You know, like he looks, it's not massive differences and he's still making mistakes, but there is a certain sharpness to his play that maybe was missing 6 months ago, a year ago. Like it's still, there's still some big mistakes, especially the one that really comes to mind was that move command in game number 1. That's the one that for me was like, okay, we'd probably be looking down the barrel of a 2-0 if everything went the same and he just didn't move command that army in the main base. But it's still a very much improved Kelazhur from what I can see.
Yeah, if I look at Diego now and I compare him to the Kelazhur we saw in 2017, 2018, I feel like he's less stubborn and in general a bit less eager to end games, and he's got a lot more confidence. Whoa, Neeb just loses his probe there almost immediately. Got greedy, tried to win the fight. I mean, this is a pretty weird game and a half of Neeb so far. Overall, the entire series is just weird. It started off with a Reaper that just went on strike and refused to hop into a bunker, something we'd never seen before. And after that, I'm not totally sure. There's a lot of funny, weird little things. But at the TLDRs, I think Kelazhur's late game became so much better, right? He's so much more confident in transitioning into goals and getting all the upgrades. And he doesn't feel like it's 3 base, 4 base, Mass Marine Marauder, and we have to end it. Like, no, he's willing to slow things down if he feels like that's necessary. Of course, by nature, he's still an aggressive, in-your-face kind of Terran. But yeah, he's just, he has matured a lot as a player, and you can really see that.
Yeah, and it almost makes him a more scary player overall. Obviously, it does, but like for different reasons. Ooh, we are going to see the Reaper almost getting a probe right here, but it looks like Neeb is going to be able to keep it alive. Good job on the micro with the probe and the Adept Shade to kind of keep the inside track. Oh, and even a nice little zap right there to interrupt the healing. That's a good little move from Neeb. But it feels like Kelazhur is... yeah, like, matured is the best way to put it. And because of that, now players can't just assume that Kelazhur is going to stay, first of all, on a very basic composition. Oh, beautiful move.
Yeah, cool. One Adept was still at home, though, so that Adept is going to be able to push this Reaper away, but at least gets a great scout off. Knows exactly what's up, knows... Oh, Widowmine on the other side of the map. Man, it's Kelazhur. I'm starting to feel it, man. And this would be a crazy run, right?
Oh my God,
Kelazhur defeating the guy that literally always defeats him in his region. Special in the round of 32. Now in the round of 16, going up against the NA powerhouse that is Neeb. Neeb has been playing some of the best StarCraft of his career. And I know that he won the Casper Cup, and I know he was dominant in 2017. But over the last few months, Neeb has looked so damn good in some games. At the moment, it's a mix between Kelazhur looking good and maybe Neeb just being a little bit flustered by, I don't know, many things in this series.
Yeah, it's hard to say exactly what it is, but to really echo your point, this is Neeb that is awakened right now. Oh, there we go. Does finally get the setup for the kill on this Reaper. But well after it has already got some good work done, Viking is going to be kept alive. It was left a little bit exposed, but no biggie. Yeah, Neeb 3-0 Dark this week in the ESL Open NA. And yes, once again, I know that it's a ping advantage, but that is a really big deal. Like that is a statement as much as you can say succinctly that Neeb is playing damn good StarCraft right now.
Yep. Twilight Council is, I wouldn't say late, because this is just the way that the pros like to do it. They go up to 3 bases. But this means that you're going to have to deal with this first push with just basic gateway units and phoenixes. Is that impossible? No, because adepts can be very good if they actually shoot at the right units. You need a shield battery, of course. But this is going to be a bit tricky, man. And the target fire is going to be very important here. These stalkers, they cannot die. One stalker dies immediately. I'm actually kind of concerned here for Neeb as he does snipe the Viking. That's big. The shield battery finishes up, and that is Neeb's cue to just go for it immediately. That makes his life a little bit easier. He gets away with his 3-base setup, and he can now fire up charge, which I'm happy to see it's charge and not Phoenix Blink. That wasn't very successful.
Yeah, that was such a weird decision from Zaun. That one left me scratching my head, and I mean, that isn't the only reason that he lost that series, but it certainly didn't help. Oh my god, how did that feel?
Yeah.
The lock-on range is so long.
That's the second time that that Oracle, I believe, on the in game 1, Inside and Out or something, and Oracle died, and I was like, what? Or no, it was on Tropical Sacrifice actually game 2, and I was like, how on earth did the Cyclone get that final shut off? I mean, this is a bit of an uncomfortable fight for Neeb, because there isn't too much micro potential in these very basic units, and losing a Phoenix is a very big deal if you're playing Phoenix Zealot, because we can see that Neeb's still building them, and Phoenixes are obviously quite expensive. Neeb has like no upgrades. And I don't think that's bad, but if you want to be a bit YOLO, you kind of need indeed a pylon and a gateway on the other side of the map, right? You can't just go Phoenix Zealot, no upgrades at all, and assume you're going to be fine 2-3 minutes down the line, because you won't be.
Oh, oh man, that's like a lot of times now that Neeb hasn't really checked to see if the Widowmine is still there and eaten a shot. He doesn't lose the Phoenix, but it's a lot of damage on that Phoenix as well. And to your point, almost right after it happened, right after you said it, Neeb does throw down that pylon. Now, I think without a gateway, there's like almost no point in even having the pylon there if you're playing charge lots. If it's like DTs or something where you slow warp it, I think it's fine. But I think if Zealots, you want those in the fight as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And for Kelazhur, I think it's important right now to not move out too quickly and not leave your bases at home too exposed. Because the ball is actually kind of like in Neeb's corner to make a move. If Neeb doesn't make a move, the only thing he can do is drop a Robo Bay and maybe get a second Robo and slowly but steady take the game from there. But by the time that you actually have 2 Colossus and Thermal Lands, Kelazhur's army is going to be absolutely massive. So Neeb kind of needs to trade, needs to get a good fight before he can make that transition. If Kelazhur just sits at home with Bonkers, Neeb is not going to get a great fight. And I feel like the game is going to be very uncomfortable for Neeb.
Yeah, and it looks like Neeb is just kind of settling in and, accepting the fact that he...
He can't do anything if Kelazhur sits at home.
Yeah.
So this is obviously better than attacking now with 20 Zealots, losing 18 of them, running away with 2. Because then you know Kelazhur is going to immediately counterattack. But this right here is like the scariest 90 seconds for Neeb. You're going up to 4 bases. You're going up to a Robo Bay. But that Terran army is growing at a very rapid pace. And the Bio army scales very well. The Zealot army does not scale very well. That's a 6 scan for Kelazhur, even if he sees no army. What he sees is gases at that base. So that's most likely gas 5 and 6. And he's like, all right, that means you're transitioning. Now Neeb is going to have to make this game very chaotic or get a great engagement. Otherwise, he's in serious trouble.
Ooh, a little bit of he's trying to buy time with these Zealots, and he actually instantly turns them around after he kills that Marine. And that will buy him a lot of the time that he's looking for, but he still hasn't started up his Colossus because he's supply blocked, and he needs to build 3 pylons at a time. The Nexus will unsupply block him here and let him start up at least his first Colossus. But man, that could be... Oh no, it doesn't. He needs 1 more free supply.
Yeah. He wiped in Zealots. Now there is a Colossus on the way, but how many Zealots are we looking at? It must be like 30 something Zealots, right? This must be 36 Zealots. So if Kelazhur had like 4 or 5 mines here, Neeb be in trouble, but he doesn't have 3 or 4 mines, so it's just going to be 36 Zealots chasing down a Terran army. 1 Widow Mine is burrowing in the back there. That mine has crazy potential, but Neeb has to know that Widow Mine shot is really good. And at least Neeb is going to push Kelazhur back for now. Man, that's one hell of an army, man. 72 army supply of Zealots. Let's go.
It's the kind of army you don't want to meet in a back alley, that's for sure. Oh god, that Widow Mine. Oh, okay, it actually does manage to burrow. That's kind of funny. There's, God, the splat. Oh, wow. My brain just had a moment. I saw the Phoenix, like I looked at the bio army and then it jumped away. And I saw the yellow of the HP. And it made me think it was Kelazhur's army for just a second. And I'm like, oh my God, the Phoenix. Why aren't the Zealots shooting up? And then, well, my brain answered its own question very quickly.
I mean, you had a couple of very long games, so I can get it. I got a bit dizzy too by watching Maru Showtime, especially when Maru started nuking everywhere. I'm like, all right, I'm so happy I'm not playing this game right now. That would be a nightmare as a bit of mine does go off there. Neeb decides to lift a couple of them. Neeb's army with thermal lens, obviously a little bit better in chasing down, but still struggling because every single time that Kelazhur turns around, he's got so much burst damage in that army. But Neeb has survived the scariest part, the part where he had actually only Zealot and did not have an upgrade advantage by any means. Those are terrifying moments, and I think he was very happy to see that there was a tank in that first push rather than 5 or 6 mines. Because if there are 6 mines there, you're hating life with your 36 Zealots.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh God, I predicted the future after all. I was just a minute and a half early. Damn. All 4 Phoenix going down. They're not the highest value units at this point, but you still don't want to lose them just for free. They can lift up Widow Mines. They can chase down Medevacs. This is a little bit scary right now for Neeb. I don't know. Okay, he's going to shove back Kelazhur. I mean, he does have, like, mostly Marines.
Yeah, but you're spot on. Like, I think Neeb, obviously, as long as the Colossus are safe, you like this, right? You're like, yay, 3 damage, he's stimming, I'm getting some shots off. But you need to be careful. If you run out of Zealots, suddenly a big EMP lens and a bunch of Marauders show up from a different angle, and they get on top of your army. Things get dire. Kelazhur throws down a scan. He knows what he's dealing with. I think he would have loved to go, but didn't quite have +2 yet. Throws down another scan. He does have the Ghost upgrade, so EMPs are going to be bigger, and they are absolutely going to shower this army.
That they are. We are going to see Neeb stepping forward here. The Guardian Shield going to be pretty good. Disruptor shot will get avoided. Good job. Kelazhur really wants to take these rocks down to try and flank this army. Stim coming on in once again, and he's going to be able to take down a couple of disruptors. The EMP is pretty big, but the Colossus are reigning supreme. The bio getting absolutely melted faces off right there. Oh my goodness.
I mean, that entire fight took place 10 seconds before a +2 attack, and it really makes night and day difference for a Terran player, especially if the Protoss already has +2 armor. So it was just really hard for Kelazhur to actually get some kills in some of these units. I think with +2, that fight looks completely different, but I gotta say, Neeb was able to get good shots up with the Colossus, and mostly fired at Marines. I don't know if he manually controlled that or not. Sometimes there's a bit of RNG involved there, but those Colossus, they indeed look godlike there.
That they did. We are going to see the Vikings could set up on these very narrow pillars, but that's really tricky micro to pull off, and you're probably just going to be looking for a good position on the fight as opposed to stacking those up. We do see a nice little pylon block. Now it is Neeb's turn to take down these rocks. Oh, but the Vikings are actually going to find both Colossus here as Neeb is attacking the rocks. That is not what you want at all.
Yeah, he was actually shooting across the rocks too, I believe, right, at one point. But
okay,
yeah, it's very hard for a Colossus in Stalkers to kill like a ghost that's being healed by Medevacs on the other side of the rocks. But this time around, Neeb says, all right, I still like my army. I'm going to blink forward, and I'm going to hunt you down. Widow Mine's dealing some decent damage on these Zealots. Stalkers blink forward again. I just think that Neeb believes Kelazhur has no answer for these Disruptors. And as long as the Disruptors are in the mix, this Terran army is forced to just keep on running. And Neeb gets on top of a very important base with a lot of SCVs.
Yeah, and he's going to not just kill off all the SCVs, he gets the base as well. And as long as he gets away with the majority of this army, this is an extremely successful setup. A couple of Widow Mines do kill off the Colossus here. Oh, and another big Widow Mine shot. The Widow Mines feel like they've been so big in this game, but they haven't been enough to actually win the game for Kelazhur yet. Now, that being said, this is a pretty nice little run by. This is going to get cleaned up too. Well done by Neeb. He's dealing with everything as well as he needs to.
Don't see any ghosts in this army, so no EMPs. Landed Vikings have decent DPS, but it's impossible to keep them alive against Novas, as Novas do go forward. The first one was big, the second one decent, the third one is quite decent as well. And obviously you're forcing the Terran to disengage. Neeb thinks that he's ultra rich as he just wipes in 12 DTs. I mean, that's a good way to get rid of your bank. Can also be a bit risky, but not if they just get all these hits off on these units. couple of EMPs do land towards the end, but oh my goodness. Kelazhur looked away for a second, and 12 DTs swiped up half his army.
Oh, that is a that is a Terran nightmare right there. Truly the kind of thing that leaves you waking up in a cold sweat in the night. Oh, Neeb almost had a flashback of game number 2 right there. The DT's barely not getting hit by his own disruptor shots. Now, in this case, I mean, what can Kelazhur... I mean, he's so far down in supply. Is there anything he can do at this point?
I think we're kind of running out of steam, and I think Kelazhur will feel the same. Whenever you're at 120 supply, I think before the DTs got that great fight, maybe there was still some hope that he was able to muster out one more big, strong army, but he just lost so many units for free there. Did not kill anything in return. We're going to end up losing the SPF. We're losing a few more SCVs, and for the last time, Kelazhur says, my best option is to just go ahead and counterattack. Neeb will look at that army and probably think, I can deal with that with my reinforcements. I'm just going to go ahead and keep on killing SCVs, taking out base after base. I'll blow up a couple of my own zealots in the mix, and I can always recall a few DTs if I have to.
Oh my god, that Artosis pylon. That was 3 gates and 2 robos. But does it, once again, does it even matter? Kelazhur is still, he's within shouting distance of his opponent's army supply. And if he can shut down all the production, Neeb's economy won't necessarily matter as much. But can he even hold on his base? I don't really see a world where he's going to be able to, not easily at least. But this is the best chance for Kelazhur for sure.
I'm kind of surprised that Neeb didn't recall at one point, right? Whereas, like, okay, losing that base on the left side is okay. He has obviously taken out each and every single base, but like running up this little ramp now, he's got a bad army to bust down those first few depots. So I wouldn't quite go with that option. Neeb losing his entire main definitely does hurt, but Neeb still has mining bases. He can rebuild. Kelazhur cannot rebuild. I feel like Neeb is just going to play a minigame now where he's just going to fire Nova after Nova at that ramp. I think in the end, Neeb can get away with this and Kelazhur cannot.
Yeah, exactly. It's still a painful situation for Neeb. Like, no, it's going to be fine. He's going to be able to take down enough of this army. He's setting up with a flank of Blink Stalkers, and that's going to be the GG Blink as Neeb will move on to the next round and qualify